To our guest. He's joining us to mark the start of Arthritis Care Awareness Week, which is something very close to his heart after his mother suffered with a severe form of the disease. But we couldn't have Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer here today without also covering some of the recent headlines to come out of Westminster. So he's with us live today. Please welcome Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer.
Morning.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
First time on Loose Women.
It is, yes.
Welcome. Get comfy, in the middle, got your drink, got your Loose Women mug.
Got my mug, got everything I need.
Are you nervous?
I've been told by everyone this morning, you must be very brave.
Yeah. No, you'll be fine.
That was the warm-up from the team with me.
Don't be afraid at all. I mentioned there, you are here to talk about Arthritis Care Awareness Week, and we absolutely will come on to that. But, of course, we can't have you here without discussing beergate, which rolls on alongside partygate. You have called for the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's resignations many times during partygate. There was a poll in The Sun on Sunday yesterday. 63% of voters branded you a hypocrite. So how does that sit with you? What would you say to those people who've called you that today?
I think the big difference is that I've been very clear I haven't broken the rules, but equally I've said that if the police do issue me with a fixed penalty notice, I will do the right thing and I will step down. So I've put everything on the line because I think that's the right thing to do. That is the complete opposite of the Prime Minister, who has already been found to have broken the rules.
But you were calling for the Prime Minister's resignation before a police investigation, weren't you? So before the police investigation of Boris Johnson and Partygate, you said then that he should resign, which is a similar position that you're in yourself now.
Well, by then we already knew there was industrial-scale rule-breaking in Downing Street. We'd had so many examples, including the example of the wheelbarrow of booze coming in, the suitcase of booze coming in on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral. So it was a completely different situation.
You'd had a curry takeaway for 30 people delivered,
it wasn't
we
30
understand
people. That's already been retracted. We were just on the road.
How many was there?
About 15 or so. We were on the road.
Still a lot.
But we were on the road. It was the local election last year, and during the local election, when we're not in Parliament, my job is to be on the road with the team, doing visits, doing media, with local leaders, revving everybody up for the campaign.
How is that different to Boris Johnson being in the Cabinet Office in the middle of lots of meetings during the day and somebody bringing in a cake that he didn't eat?
Well, I don't know exactly what happened in his situation. Obviously, the police have looked into that. I can tell you exactly what happened. I'm travelling with a team. The team is always pretty much the same team. We've got a camera person, we've got a videographer, I've got someone, a comms advisor with me, a policy advisor, somebody from my leader's office who organises the visit, 2 protection officers and me. That's the 8 that I travel with everywhere I go. I've just done it again for these local elections.
I don't think any member of the public particularly worries too much if you say, well, yes, I was working and whatever. But I think, as the famous phrase that's been going around about you, hoisted by your own petard, I think because you were so sort of noisy about Partygate that, of course, this has come back and sort of hit you in the face.
But the 2 differences are, one, we were actually not doing anything wrong at all, and when you're on the road, that's... Every campaigning politician knows that's what happens. You travel with your team, you work in an office, somebody organises food for you, you get on with it and you repeat the next day. So when I'm not in Parliament, that is what I'm doing.
So you've taken a very big political gamble here because you've said that you will resign if they are going to fine you. So that will mark your end as Labour leader. Are you worried about that?
I haven't broken the rules, and I'm sure that's going to be the fine.
So you already think that they're not going to fine you?
I haven't broken the rules, but it is...
Well, that's not for you to judge, is it?
No, I know that, but my instinct, as soon as I knew that Durham had decided they were going to reopen this investigation, in my heart, I knew what I was going to say, which is, if I'm wrong and they find I have broken the law, then I'll do the right thing and step down, because...
But you're not worried about... You don't think that's going to happen?
I don't think that... Well, I hope that isn't going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm trying to make a bigger point here because, you know, there are these allegations, who did what when. But But there's a bigger piece here, which is trust in politics. And, you know...
I was coming with that question.
No, but it's
coming
true.
with that question.
The number of times I hear, you're all the same, you won't do the right thing.
As someone who doesn't usually vote, and Jane tried to convince me, and I'm not running to any polls right now because of that, what would you say to somebody to get me across that line?
Well, I think trust is everything in politics. We're talking about cost of living crisis. People are really worried about their bills. They need a government that they can trust when it says it's going to do something. Is it going to do it? Does it take responsibility? So I have put everything on the line for that honour and that integrity, because I don't believe all politicians are the same. It's very important to me that we don't sink into this where everybody thinks that all politicians are the same, because then people lose trust in democracy. Say, well, why should I vote if you're all the same? And so this is actually not just about these particular allegations for me. It's actually about who I am as a politician. I came into politics late in life, having done other things. I came in to make a difference. And I want to show that we're not all the same, and that in the event that I'm wrong, and that the police say I have done something wrong, then I will step down and do the honourable thing. And I think it's very important for me to say that, and I have said that. And as I say, as soon as I knew there was a reinvestigation, I knew I was going to say that, because that was so deep down inside me as to what I believe in, that there was no way I wasn't going to say that. And I then said it, obviously, last Monday.
The investigation is ongoing, and I promised I would keep the time for you to talk about Arthritis Care Awareness Week, which I didn't want to do, so I apologise for interrupting, because I know this is very important to you and to many of our viewers watching who will either have arthritis or a loved one with arthritis. And you, sadly, lost your mother, Josephine, to a very debilitating, incurable form of arthritis, sorry, not debilitating, called Still's disease, which she was diagnosed when she was very, very young.
So... she was diagnosed when she was 11, so she's an 11-year-old girl and has this terrible swelling and pain in all of her joints, and is taken off for a diagnosis at Guy's Hospital in London. And they say it's Still's disease, which is an aggressive juvenile form of arthritis. And not only was she, when she was a child, in hospital for a year with that.
She was told that she'd never have children.
Well, they said two things. One, by the time you're in your 20s, you won't be walking again. And secondly, you won't be having children. And that, I mean, for an 11-year-old, I've got an 11-year-old girl, so for me it just really brings it home. Who, you know, fantastic little girl we've got, but she's vulnerable, she's small, and I just think of my mum at that age being told these things.
When were you aware of it as a child? When did you think Mum's not well, or she's in pain, or does she have to go to bed a lot?
Oh, it was the constant in our household, and it's one of those reminders, and your viewers will all know this, that, you know, behind every front door, there's always a story about something's going on with every family. But Mum was very ill. I spent a lot of time with her in high dependency units, intensive care when I was a boy growing up. That's what we knew. We understood that, and that we might lose our mum because the condition got worse. It was an incredible story because cortisone, which is a form of steroids, had been discovered and was being used on older people. And the hospital said, can we have permission to try this on your child? This was to my grandparents, even though she's still, you know, 11, 12, 13
So she was the guinea pig.
So she was the first. And the steroids meant that she did walk until she was, you know, through her 20s and 30s. So that was a big plus. And she was able to have children. But having been told she wasn't going to have children, my mum was a very, very determined, courageous woman. She decided she was going to have children, and she got married and immediately had 4 children, 2 children and 2 twins. So by the time she was 25, she had 4 children under 4, which is a bit of a handful.
Can I ask you, is it genetic? Do you know? Where was it random or...?
No, it's not genetic, as far as we know, and I've obviously thought about that a lot. But it was very aggressive, and anybody with arthritis will know just how debilitating it was.
God, yeah.
The combined effect of the arthritis, which was, you know, having a terrible effect on the joints, was also that the steroids, whilst helping and giving my mum a lease of life she didn't think she would have, was also having a brutal impact on her, because it made her skin sort of tissue-like. It couldn't heal. And her bones became very, very weak and almost like Weetabix. And towards the end of her life, she fell and There was nothing that could be done with her limbs. She had to have her leg amputated. And in the last few years of her life, she couldn't move, she couldn't eat, she couldn't speak.
And she never got to cuddle her grandchildren.
And then we had children, and this was about that time. And one of my big regrets in life is that our children never got the chance to know my mum, because by the time they saw her, she was unable to move, unable to eat, unable to clean herself, unable to speak
and
have any relationship with them. And so I feel they never knew her, and she was this incredible... If you asked her how she was in and out of hospital, she was in pain. I remember lines of tablets lined up every day to deal with the pain. Ask her how she was. Stock answer, I'm all right, how are you? It was absolutely every single time.
And talking of how are you, I know your parents were staunch Labour supporters.
Yeah.
They didn't... Your mum didn't get to see you as Labour leader. What do you think she would make of that?
She'd be very proud. She died just 2+ weeks before I became a Member of Parliament. My dad had this plan that if he could possibly... Because he, by then, had to wheel her everywhere if she was to move at all. But he wanted to try and see if he could possibly get her up to London to see me installed as an MP, but sadly she passed away with just 2 weeks.
Well, whatever's going on, I'm sure she'd be very proud of you. Thank you very much for launching Arthritis Care Awareness Week here on Loose Women. I know it will mean a lot to our viewers. I said politics parked to one side. You know, you as a human being, as a son and a father, just talking about it helps a lot of people. So thank you very much, Sir Keir Starmer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.